we made history. In the words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it is done. My friends, we have done it.
That's a name and face you're going to get to know. In a stunning upset, 33-year-old state assemblyman Zoran Mandani has declared victory over former Governor Andrew Cuomo in the New York City Democratic mayoral primary. While no candidate has yet secured a majority in the first round of the ranked choice election, Mandani's early lead over Cuomo has all but solidified his victory, and Cuomo last night basically conceded to Mandani. We'll get more results in the days ahead, but it is a seismic outcome. And joining us now to help us make sense of it, president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Rev
My favorite.
Al Sharpton. The Rev, of course, you've been...
I'm joking, obviously.
So central in many ways to this primary process. But as we talked at the top of the show, this is a huge upset. Cuomo, of course, comes from a famous Democratic family, was governor just a couple years back. This was viewed as a political comeback for him, maybe even a stepping stone back into even higher office. And he didn't just lose, he lost significantly, by far more than anyone would have anticipated, even as we did see that Mandani had the tailwinds and was closing strong. Give us your assessment here. What should we read out of this result last night?
I think that clearly Mandani did much better than anyone could have predicted.
What we should read from this is that if you take a look at the demographic breakdown, it was essentially white liberals that voted him in. I mean, let's be very honest. Once you start breaking it down by group and by area, like predominantly like all the yuppie rich neighborhoods in Brooklyn, Manhattan, stuff like that, they're the ones that all voted him in. They're young. Their parents are still paying for most of their shit, and they don't understand how life really works. Most of them don't have kids, and that's who voted him in. And he is going to be the next mayor, as far as I'm predicting. The only chance that New York City has at this point is possibly if the Republican candidate, that's probably going to be Curtis Sliwa, if he drops out of the race, Adams might have a shot. Might. It's going to be tough. It is going to be a tough race. I really do think the Zohan, as I've been calling him, will win, and then New Yorkers will get, exactly what they deserve. It's unfortunate. This has been a fantastic city for the majority of my lifetime. I grew up during the highs and lows and up and down, and I've seen the city at its one of its peaks. Even though I wasn't, necessarily a big fan of Bloomberg in terms of like what he promulgated in terms of, he wanted to exert a little bit more control than I was comfortable with. However, he ran the city like a business. It was very, let the police do what the police do, let other organizations do what they do. He left the city with a surplus. Everything was humming. Everything was running fantastic. And the problem is, good times promote. They bring on the bad, right? Because people, they just think that, everything's going well. Let's bring this other person in that can, help out the poor and take care of all the people. And what do you get? You always end up with a socialist. That's just the way it goes, right? When you're experiencing a high, when you're experiencing a net positive, you always want to. It's innate in us, right? If you have so much extra, you can give a little bit extra, and that's the mentality of people. That brought along Bill de Blasio, who absolutely decimated the city. I mean, you went from the city was clean, it was beautiful, everything was working well. Like there were next to no issues. Granted, you can also blame it on the national stage, where we got a lot of influx of migrants coming across the border. However, it really was that the city was just ran as a business, and then afterwards it was run like an ATM, and people were just draining it dry, and the crime went up, quality of life went down, just became very dirty. It's not the city that we all knew, back in the early aughts. But this guy's gonna, in my personal view, this is what was needed. You're gonna have to go full bore socialist, run it down to the ground, and then hopefully, at the very end, you can get another Giuliani in place and yank it from the depths of hell. That's kind of the only way. It's not ideal. It's definitely not ideal. It's kind of scary. I don't think I'll be here for much longer. But that might be the only way forward, because the people that are putting these people in office, they are relatively well off. They don't have to live in poor neighborhoods that are suffering from lack of policing. I mean, this guy is a defund the police candidate, socialist candidate, $30 minimum wage, free buses, free daycare, just free. And as if you've ever seen any of my Milton Friedman videos from the past, nothing is free, right? The people that are doing those services, they need to get paid, right? How are you paying them? Just because if New York City can't print money, right? It has to come from somewhere. It comes from the taxpayer. So your free is not free. It's coming from people. People are the ones that have to pay ultimately. Let's see what the Rev has to say about the rest of this.
He seemed to go into the early voting stage with a momentum, but I don't think even he would have thought it would have ended this way. So it was a stunning victory. At the same time, many felt that by Cuomo not making a lot of appearances, not being accessible, worked against him. And in many ways, you saw Mandani everywhere. And last Saturday, he was at our National Action Network, and he made himself available. The challenges he will have now is that you have New York Times saying he's not qualified. You're going to a broader base of voters. And will some of the older voters, even in the black community?
Yeah, he's going to the Democratic primary is essentially the election. I mean, let's be real. When he's saying you're going to a broader base of voters, there is a contingent of Republicans in New York City, but come on, let's all be honest. It is not by any means the majority, right? And in the end, you're going to have two candidates, essentially, possibly three, right? So here, the issue is you could have Zoran, Adams running as an independent because he can't win in the Democratic side. So he bowed out of the Democratic side. He basically gave the lane to either Zoran or Cuomo to take it. Zoran took it. Adams is an independent. And then you have Sliwa on the right, which isn't even right. I mean, it's New York politics. So the only way, like I said before, the only way that this possibly goes and it kind of gets saved, if Sliwa drops out, backs Adams, that would take the center right over, and Adams could possibly win a re-election. It's a long shot. I really do think this guy's going to win. And I think that's kind of what the city just needs at this point. It needs. It's like 4 years of Joe Biden brought us, the prosperity that we're having now. Where the borders finally closed down, things are getting back. There's some housekeeping going on. We got a little sidetracked with some wars here and there. Hopefully that stuff dies down now, and then we can concentrate on the home front. But when it comes to New York politics, this is the way it all goes, always, every single time.
Community and Latino community come out and vote for him when you have Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor, on the ballot, who still has a strong base in the black community and in some of these communities. And what happens with Jewish voters, where Mandani, right or wrong, has been called anti-Semitic. So it's going to be a very interesting fall election. I think he made history last night. The question is whether or not it can stick with a general election. And when knowing Eric Adams the way I do, I think Eric Adams would want this fight more than he would have wanted against Andrew Cuomo.
Well, listen, I think we're going to hear more, Rev, about him saying that some people who say they need to globalize the intifada is not a bad thing. Is not anti-Semitic. I think we're going to be hearing an awful lot more about that. We're going to be hearing about his economic plans, a socialist in New York. There's going to be, I think we're going to have a very competitive, interesting general election. I want to follow up, though, on something that you've said, and something we've talked about time and again. And I'll tell you, it goes all the way back to 2015 and early 2016 when Donald Trump kept coming on this program. People say, why do you keep having Donald Trump calling on your program? I said, well, we've offered it to every candidate. He's the only one that, walks through the door and calls us. And as I've said before, Lindsey Graham called us once or twice, but we offered it. And Tim Ryan did it this past cycle, I think it was. But showing up makes the difference so many times. This guy showed up. Cuomo thought he was going to be able to coast in. You look at, and there was an analysis by the New York Times after the 2024 election. You look at the interviews that Donald Trump showed up for versus Kamala Harris in the time frame that she was in the race. Not even a close call. Trump shows up. Trump talks to people. I found is just as well. There are a lot of people who voted for me that said, you're too conservative. We're uncomfortable with some of your positions, but we see you, we know you, and we know when you get elected to Congress, you're going to come back and you're going to be here and you're going to fight for us, for what we need. Talk about how showing up makes a difference. You can't be a preacher in a church and show up 1 out of every 4 Sundays.
No, that's for sure. I think showing up it says to people that you really are engaged with them and you really want them to know you and they can feel you. And when you don't show up and have this rose garden strategy when you're not one.
This media just needs to die. This media needs to die, and it is dying. So that's kind of good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who they're talking to. I mean, it just, they're probably talking to, obviously they're talking to a very old audience that is just like, I guess they just put this stuff on in the background because this is so brain dead TV. Sorry for those of you that are out there that watch this stuff, but yeah, there's nothing here. I mean, what are we talking? This is like a kindergarten thing. But before I go any further, please, if you can if you can share, if you can subscribe, especially subscribe, that really helps because then you'll get notifications when I post videos in the future. If you drop a comment, I will respond to you. If you have a question, comment, concern, we can talk about it. But yeah, this is, New York City politics. This is how it goes. When it comes to the primary, like I said before, it is absolutely true. You could look at the demographic breakdown. It's essentially, white liberals, the Williamsburg crowd, the beards and the mustaches and the glasses. That's who voted this guy in. There's a couple of videos out there. You can see them all screaming and cheering, and you look through the crowd, and you'll see a couple of maybe Muslims and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's exactly who I said. And they don't have to worry, right? Because they are relatively well off. So they don't live in the South Bronx. They don't live in the bad areas of Brooklyn. They live in pretty nice areas that are well maintained and well groomed, and they don't have, mommy and daddy are still paying their rent and stuff like that. So that's what you get. And then the regular poor people that live throughout the city, most of them just don't vote. They gotta go to work. They gotta do what they gotta do. They're not really into this. They kind of just they just coast, and a lot of them just think, well, smart people will vote in a smart guy, and they don't even think or engage in the political sphere, and it's sad because they're being sent, downstream, and they have no idea what's waiting ahead if this guy gets in, and he probably will. Guys, thanks a lot for coming out. Again. Subscribe, share, like, comment. We can talk down below. I answer all of the comments, and some of them get a little snippy, but I kind of like that. It's a little bit fun. Thanks a lot for coming out, guys. See you in the next video. Thanks a lot.